The tragedy of Joe Frazier wasn't just his horrible end. Dying broke in a one-room apartment above his gym, his body broken by years of punishment, carrying bitter wounds from Muhammad Ali's cruel betrayal that never healed. But this story isn't just about a horrible end. It's about the unbreakable heart of a champion forged in hardship. So how did a poor boy from the segregated South with a permanently damaged arm rise to become one of the greatest fighters in history? Joseph William Frazier was born on January 12, 1944, in Beaufort, South Carolina, the 12th child of sharecroppers working 10 acres of farmland. His world was one of manual labor and limited opportunity. The spark of his boxing dream came when his uncle Israel looked at his stocky build and declared, "That boy there, that boy's gonna be another Joe Louis." Those words ignited a fire in Frazier. With no sports facilities available for African Americans in his hometown, he created a homemade heavy bag from a burlap sack stuffed with corn cobs, moss, and bricks. Frazier's body already bore the marks of his harsh life. A childhood accident involving the family's 300-pound hog left him with a severely injured left arm that healed wrong, leaving him unable to ever fully straighten it again. This permanent injury would be a hidden challenge throughout his entire boxing career. At 15, he moved to Philadelphia seeking a better life. He found a job in a slaughterhouse and resumed boxing at a police athletic league gym. His work and training became connected in a routine that would become boxing legend. He would run the city's streets in the morning and spend his days pounding on sides of beef in the meat locker, an image later made famous in the 1976 film Rocky. Under trainer Yancey "Yank" Durham, he won the Philadelphia Golden Gloves Championship 3 years in a row. His path to Olympic glory was unlikely. His only amateur loss came to Buster Mathis in the 1964 U.S. Olympic trials. Crushed, Frazier was ready to quit, but Durham convinced him to travel to Tokyo as an alternate. This level of grit is almost unbelievable. If you're inspired by stories of true determination, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because Frazier's toughest battles were still ahead. Fate stepped in when Mathis broke his thumb, giving Frazier his spot. In the semi-final, Frazier broke his own left thumb, but hid the injury from officials. Fighting the final against Germany's Hans Huber essentially one-handed, he gutted out a 3-2 decision to win the only boxing gold medal for the United States at those games. His return home was harsh. There were no parades, no endorsement deals, no crowds at the airport. With a broken hand and an Olympic gold medal, he went straight back to his job at the slaughterhouse. This pattern of overcoming huge obstacles only to receive little recognition would define much of his life. The saga of Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali was never just boxing matches. It was a deeply personal feud fueled by betrayal and psychological cruelty. The first Ali-Frazier fight on March 8, 1971, reflected a nation at war with itself over Vietnam, civil rights, and cultural divisions. Muhammad Ali had built an image as a revolutionary figure. His refusal to be drafted made him a hero to the anti-war movement and an enemy to mainstream America. Stripped of his title for nearly 4 years, he became a symbol of defiance. Into this charged atmosphere stepped Joe Frazier, a quiet, deeply religious, non-political man who simply said, "Politics is a little out of my line." The personal hatred that poisoned their rivalry came from what Frazier saw as unforgivable betrayal. During Ali's forced exile, Frazier had been one of his few supporters. He lent Ali money, testified before Congress on his behalf, and even petitioned President Nixon to restore his boxing license. When their paths finally crossed, Ali repaid this kindness with psychological warfare. He cast Frazier not as a rival champion, but as a race traitor. Ali branded Frazier and Uncle Tom, the most cutting insult one black man could level at another during the civil rights era. He declared that Frazier works for the enemy and was the white man's champion. The attacks grew personal and dehumanizing. Ali called him so ugly he should donate his face to the U.S. Bureau of Wildlife and, most notoriously, a gorilla. Before their third fight, he rhymed, "It will be a killa and a chilla and a thrilla when I get the gorilla in Manila." For Frazier, these weren't promotional tricks. They were a profound assault on his identity and dignity. The insults were a betrayal of their friendship that made him angry, past the point of redemption. Ali's words also terrorized Frazier's family. His children were bullied at school, and the family received death threats requiring police protection. The 3 fights between Frazier and Ali stand as a brutal trilogy. The first fight on March 8, 1971, was Frazier's masterpiece. From the opening bell, he was a relentless force, constantly moving forward under Ali's jab to unleash punishing hooks. By the middle rounds, Frazier had taken control, battering Ali so severely his jaw swelled. In the 15th round, Frazier unleashed a thunderous left hook that sent Ali crashing to the canvas for the first time in his career. Frazier won by unanimous decision, screaming at Ali's corner, "I kicked your ass!" It was one of boxing's greatest victories, but the punishment sent him to the hospital for a month. Their second fight in 1974 was different. Ali used clinching tactics to win a clear decision, frustrating Frazier and his trainer, who complained about excessive holding. Their final confrontation was legendary and brutal. Fought in 125-degree heat in Manila, it pushed both men to the brink of death. Ali started fast, but Frazier absorbed punishment and began hammering Ali's body with vicious hooks. Ali later told his corner, "Man, this is the closest I've ever been to dying." But as Frazier tired, Ali found a second wind and began landing with punishing accuracy. By the 14th round, Frazier was virtually blind from swelling, but refused to go down. Before the 15th round, trainer Eddie Futch stopped the fight over Frazier's protests, telling his warrior, "It's all over. No one will forget what you did here today." The price Frazier paid was enormous. Ali reflected, "We went to Manila as champions, Joe and me, and we came back as old men." For Frazier, the physical cost was immediate and permanent. The beating permanently compromised his vision. After Manila, the 31-year-old fought only twice more before retiring. Despite earning millions, his $2.5 million purse for the first Ali fight was staggering. For 1971, Frazier spent his final years in poverty. He lost his fortune through generosity, trust, and failed business deals. The worst was a real estate disaster in Pennsylvania, where he lost land that eventually became worth $100 million. Frazier claimed fraud, but lawsuits were unsuccessful. More than physical pain or financial loss, the deepest wound was psychological. He never forgave Ali's insults. "I hated Ali. God might not like me talking that way, but it's in my heart," he confessed. "I know things would have been different for me if he hadn't been around. I'd have gotten a lot more respect." The end came swiftly. In late 2011, Frazier was diagnosed with aggressive liver cancer. On November 7, 2011, just weeks after diagnosis, Smokin' Joe Frazier died at 67. Since his death, there's been a re-evaluation of Frazier's legacy. As a fighter, his place among the greats is secure, a relentless warrior with legendary durability and arguably the most devastating left hook in heavyweight history. His record of April 1st 32 with 27 knockouts is more impressive because his only losses came to Ali and George Foreman. The modern view of his rivalry with Ali has shifted. While Ali's political stance remains celebrated, his treatment of Frazier is now seen as crossing into cruel, racially charged bullying. Frazier is increasingly recognized as a dignified man who was the victim of character assassination, finally winning the public relations war he lost in life. Joe Frazier's life was a testament to resilience. He rose from segregated poverty to sport's pinnacle through will, overcoming limitations that would have broken others. The bitterness of his later years was scar tissue from deep wounds, not character flaws. When asked how he wanted to be remembered, he said, "I want them to remember that I was fair, concerned, and I had a lot of love in my heart for people." That's where it's at. Beyond his rival's shadow, that is the legacy of Smokin' Joe Frazier, the unbreakable heart of a champion. Joe Frazier's story is a powerful reminder of the man behind the legend. What do you think is his greatest legacy? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories of sports icons.